Let's take a look at that drill. It's beautiful. There's something right there, a nice little signal that sounds good. I think we've got another stake. Oh, look at that. We're looking for a big, flat stone. Oak Island was closed by the U.S. after the team found a strange tunnel with gold inside the wood. The drill hit open air, deep underground at the same spot where old maps indicated something was buried. That hole lined up in a perfect row with two other spots, almost like someone had built it long ago. Inside, they found gold dust and metals no one could name. Tune in, because the deeper they dug, the more it looked like something was hidden there on purpose. The void that stopped Oak Island, the Lagina brothers, who've basically turned treasure hunting into a full-time gig, were drilling again. This time, into a spot they named DN 11.5.
Why?
Because it sat right in the middle of all the juicy rumors: buried treasure, old tunnels, maybe even pirate gold. Geologist Terry and researcher Charles were glued to their screens as the drill chewed through the earth. The target was somewhere between 80 and 120 feet down, where stories and maps have long hinted that something valuable, or dangerous, might be hiding. But at 90 feet, the screen lit up. Something was there. Then, it happened. At the 90-foot mark, the drill didn't just keep digging, it punched through nothing. A hollow space, large and unexplained. And when you're dealing with land that's been filled, tunneled, and booby-trapped for centuries, a hollow spot is a red flag in blinking neon. Mike, the drilling guy, knew the moment it happened. The drill suddenly lost resistance, as if the earth just gave up. Whatever was underneath seemed to vanish about 1.5 feet further down. No clank of metal, no splash of water, just a void. Everyone froze. Eyes widened. Hearts pounded. What they found wasn't gold, not in the way people imagined it. It was weirder than that. A space that shouldn't be there. Charles said what they were all thinking. Rick and Marty needed to see this, fast. Within minutes, the brothers showed up, looking like they had been waiting years for this moment. This wasn't just another odd blip underground. What made this void different was that it aligned perfectly with two other drill sites, forming a straight east-west line, too precise to be a coincidence. That's what got Terry's attention. Terry started connecting dots. It didn't feel like natural erosion. It looked like a blueprint, like someone long ago dug something and did it with a purpose. A tunnel, a chamber, maybe both. And Oak Island has always been good at hiding man-made nightmares under its surface. The strange part? This whole alignment was right around 94 feet deep. That number isn't random. It pops up again and again in old documents, theories, and whispered legends. People have been digging above or below that level for years, never landing quite right. Now, for the first time, maybe they had it. Excitement started bubbling. People paced, whispered, pointed at maps. Terry was already scribbling out plans. But just as the energy was hitting a high point, it all got turned on its head. That's when the government showed up. No warning, no explanation, just orders. Everything stops. Pack up, clear the site, and don't talk to the press. They called it a precaution, something about site integrity, historical preservation, and safety concerns. But behind the scenes, people were buzzing. What did they really find? Why the sudden silence? And who tipped off the authorities? Some whispered about a buried ship. Others thought it might be a sealed room filled with something other than treasure, documents, artifacts, maybe even something toxic. Some of the more wide-eyed types believed it was proof of a century-old cover-up, something older than Oak Island's treasure legends, something no one wanted to be uncovered. Now the island is quiet. Drills packed away. Workers sent home. The only thing left is the memory of that moment when the drill hit air and the feeling that they had been just inches away from solving the greatest riddle in North American history. But here's the thing. Oak Island has never liked being quiet, and you can bet the team won't stay quiet either. They know what they saw, they felt it. That hole, that space, wasn't an illusion. It was real, and it's still down there. Ever since that shutdown, the theories haven't stopped. Every late-night podcast, every blog post, every treasure hunter forum has been spinning its own version of events. Theories range from the wild to the terrifying. Some say the hollow space was part of a collapsed underground church built centuries ago by secret orders. Others believe the space once held something radioactive, something dangerous enough to trigger government interest the second it was touched. Even after the digging stopped, strange things kept turning up: gold in the wood, maps in the shadows. And then there's the talk of the room being empty on purpose, a decoy chamber designed to fool anyone who got too close. That wouldn't be too far-fetched, considering how many times the money pit has been flooded, booby-trapped, or just plain impossible. Whatever it was, it changed something. Rick and Marty have been chasing shadows for over a decade. They've hit wood, metal, bone, and parchment. They've found Spanish coins, odd stones, even bits of old tools. But none of that ever stopped the dig. None of that ever brought the government running. This did. It makes you wonder what's really buried there, and if the drill had gone just 5 feet deeper, would we even be allowed to talk about it now? Meanwhile, Rick and Marty haven't stopped working. They've been quietly analyzing the data, comparing old records, and talking to legal teams. No official statements, but you can see it in their eyes during interviews. Something happened, and they're not letting it go. Terry, too, has been restless. He keeps talking about anomalies, about things that don't line up with normal geology. He's convinced the void is just one piece of something much larger, maybe a network of spaces hidden just deep enough to stay out of sight, but not out of reach. And then there's the map. A few weeks after the shutdown, an old map surfaced, unverified, worn, covered in notes, but it showed something that made the team sit up straight. A triangular structure buried right beneath the DN alignment. Not a tunnel, not a chamber, a shape that changed everything. Because triangular shapes don't just happen underground, especially not one surrounded by hollow space and strange readings. And it wasn't the only map. Others came forward, digital scans, hand-drawn sketches passed through generations, all pointing to the same zone, all hinting that what's buried on Oak Island might not be a treasure but a device or a monument. That's when people stopped laughing. You can joke about pirates. You can mock the hunt for gold. But when engineers and physicists start showing up with measuring gear and grim expressions, it's hard to keep pretending this is all just for show. Even the skeptics are getting quiet. What happens next is anyone's guess. The land is still off-limits, the drill rigs are in storage, but every week someone leaks something new, a radar scan, a pressure reading, a strange sound picked up deep underground. And each new piece of the puzzle makes the original shutdown look more and more suspicious. This isn't just a treasure hunt anymore. It's something else, something deeper. And the countdown has already started. They ran tests on old wood pulled from deep underground, not the kind of thing that usually makes headlines. Except this time it did. Mixed in with the usual minerals was something shiny, gold. Not a nugget or a coin, just a faint trace embedded in the fibers. The gold content was tiny, just 0.04%, but enough to raise alarms. It wasn't a fluke either. Once they realized this odd glimmer was real, the team went full Sherlock. More samples, more scans, more digging. And the readings kept coming back strange, not just the gold. Other metals were showing up in patterns that didn't add up. Not natural, not local, like something had been put there deliberately. Emma, the metal specialist, went quiet. Not the good kind of quiet, where you're thinking deeply, the kind where your brain is sprinting and your mouth can't keep up. The numbers were weird, not just rare, unfamiliar. They weren't the sort of elements you'd find if someone dropped a coin centuries ago. This was something that screamed design. And then came the tunnel. The location of the wood matched a structure underground. Not a natural crack, not a root channel. A tunnel, built, straight lines, smooth curves. Old, but intentional. Someone made it long ago for a reason. People started whispering, not loud, just those sidelong glances, those silent eyebrows that say, "This isn't normal." Meetings dragged on into the night, equipment got upgraded, and then another sample came in. Same story, more gold, but also metals that practically yelled across the table. This wasn't just treasure. This was something else. They weren't just digging for gold, they found something made. Something was built under Oak Island. That's when the rumors exploded. Some say it was ancient tech. Others whispered it was a marker left by people who weren't supposed to be here. There were talks of magnetic anomalies, energy signatures, things not measured in pounds or percentages. Meanwhile, the crew packed up. Emma, Rick, and the others didn't make a scene. No press tour, no leaks, just locked gates and sealed records. But the island didn't stop humming. People noticed helicopters flying low, trucks with no plates, activity that doesn't show up on official maps. And the locals, they've noticed too. They had seen strange things on Oak Island before, but never quite like this. Some believed they'd found more than just a tunnel, possibly a sealed chamber, a vault large enough to conceal something monumental. Not just treasure, but a truth too dangerous to be exposed. Maybe it was never about gold at all. Maybe Oak Island was built to protect something history had intentionally buried, or worse, something it couldn't allow to be remembered. When the excavation team examined the soil layers around the site, they noticed oddities, shifts, compressions, and air pockets that shouldn't have existed. It was as if something had been deliberately placed there. And the structure they uncovered wasn't just a tunnel, it was part of an elaborate grid system beneath the island, connected by decaying wooden beams and unusual rock formations. Tests on those rocks revealed traces of radioactivity, not glowing, but unsettling enough to raise concerns in high-level government rooms. Then came the water, salt water with unusual densities and chemical properties, suggesting not natural occurrence but possible engineering. It began to feel like Oak Island wasn't merely a hiding place, it was a machine, a layered structure built with intent, to guard, to trap, or to signal. The supposed treasure, the strange metals, what if they were just breadcrumbs, hints left behind by a civilization older than history dares to admit? That's when things took a darker turn. The island's shutdown didn't just stop the show, it spread. Other remote sites, where similar materials were being investigated, went quiet. Within weeks, they all closed down. Coincidence? Or cleanup? Back on Oak Island, nothing seemed different. Same coastline, same trees. But the digging stopped. The cameras vanished. Only silence remained, heavy and unnatural. Locals who once lived nearby received unexpected visits, friendly offers to buy their land, subtle pressure to leave. Then came the fences. If it was just treasure, why the secrecy? If it was dangerous, why not issue warnings? No explanations, only locks. The real story wasn't about what they found, but what they weren't supposed to find. There are places where curiosity is welcomed. Oak Island isn't one of them anymore. And the team? They'd always known this might happen. Not the danger of cave-ins or running out of funds, but the risk of discovering something real, something too real for TV. During another scan in the swamp area, a new anomaly appeared. Not just a blip, a long, deep, man-made line, positioned just off the swamp like it owned the land. It wasn't supposed to be there. Then things escalated. Water samples pulled near the shaft contained actual gold particles, real stuff, not theoretical traces. It was like someone had dropped a treasure chest and never bothered to collect it. But the surprises didn't stop there. Less than 20 feet from that anomaly, another, older one emerged, perhaps connected, possibly a vault. The radar scans weren't random anymore. They were forming a pattern, a layout. Coins, tools, even bullets began showing up. It was as if someone had dumped a backpack of ancient loot and vanished. Then came the coconut fiber, yet more evidence pointing to human design. More scans north of the swamp, where legend spoke of a dam, revealed straight-line anomalies, man-made formations just below the surface. Someone had reshaped the land itself to conceal the truth. Suddenly, it wasn't about if the treasure was real. It was about who had the resources, knowledge, and time to create such a complex system. The dig team shifted their approach. No more random drilling. Every borehole became a precision strike. Each new shaft unearthed more wood, more traces of gold, more mystery. At just 39 feet deep, one core hit clean wood, upright, precisely placed, as if part of a wall or another hidden shaft. They were no longer chasing legend, they were chasing a blueprint. The ghost stories once whispered around campfires began sounding more like ancient warnings. Artifacts, coins, musket balls, cut wood, started drawing new lines on old maps. This wasn't just treasure. This was infrastructure. Purpose. Planning. Someone built all this with a reason. Imagine it, hand-hewn beams, perfectly placed, treated wood buried so deep that sunlight hadn't touched it in centuries. This wasn't a stash and dash. It took years, which meant the builders wanted whatever was down there to stay hidden. Near the shaft, more samples rolled in. Dirt packed around ancient timber contained not just gold but traces of lead, iron, even silver. It was like the shaft had been built around a central vault, or a trap, meant to lure in the curious and bury them in confusion. None of it matched any historical maps or documents. This wasn't just about digging deeper, it was about digging smarter. Lot 5 continued to produce wild finds, a second hammered coin, possibly Portuguese, a strange hinge that might have come from an old chest, and ceramic pottery so ancient it crumbled on contact. The deeper they dug, the more the island responded. It was as if the land itself had been designed to hold secrets. The swamp, long thought to be natural, might have been intentionally flooded. Digging revealed a straight row of stones and cut logs bound with rusted iron, clear evidence of human engineering. Maybe the swamp was never a swamp. Maybe it was a curtain, drawn to hide something no one was ever meant to find. As days turned to nights and back again, the crews barely rested. Every shaft opened seemed to peel another century off the timeline. But the deeper they went, the more the island fought back, water flooding new shafts, ancient timbers collapsing, equipment breaking. Still, nobody walked away. Not now. Not after what they'd seen. On Lot 10, just north of that strange triangle-shaped swamp, something waited. Whispers started when the scanners lit up, not literally, but close enough. Beneath the soil, they picked up a shape, a clean rectangle, 12 by 15 feet, buried under layers of earth as if it had been waiting to be found. On Oak Island, something like that doesn't go unnoticed. Teams rushed in with machines, buckets, and metal detectors. It didn't take long to hit something unusual. Wood, not driftwood, not decayed leftovers, but dense, shaped, and soaked in oil. Not modern creosote, but ancient oil, the kind sailors and builders once used to make structures last. That wood wasn't there by chance. And then came the map, an old one from the 14th century, marking the area as the basin with a note about a dam. The very spot they were digging. A coincidence? No. Proof. Real wood, real dirt, real iron, twisted and hammered, not factory-made but forged by hand. It was part of something. A wall. A trap. No one knew for sure, but everyone leaned in closer. That oil-treated wood spoke of age and intention, of knowledge passed down from mariners or builders who wanted something to last forever. And while this unfolded on Lot 10, another team on Lot 5 uncovered a coin, or part of one, copper with strange markings. The expert who saw it nearly dropped it. Roman. Not Viking. Not Spanish. Roman, from the empire of the Colosseum. The coin had traces of arsenic and silver, metallurgy consistent with pre-15th century techniques. Long before any European was supposed to step foot in Nova Scotia. How did a Roman coin end up on Oak Island? Coins travel with people, with stories. Could the Templars have brought it? The theory, always ridiculed, was suddenly breathing again. Builders, not treasure hunters, may have come first. In Portugal, the team had walked old Roman roads, laid stone for stone like the ones found buried in the island swamp. The same materials. The same design. Buried under Canadian mud. It was beginning to look less like coincidence and more like legacy. The scanners didn't lie. The drills didn't lie. Past layers of peat and compacted clay, shaped logs appeared, cut and placed with purpose. There was no record of anyone building this. No notes. No footprints in the past. Which could only mean someone did this long before the island was a headline. The shape on the scan. It started looking more like a wall than a pile of debris. And that dam described in the old map? It wasn't legend anymore, it was timber underfoot. Layers of soil revealed shifts and bands that only builders recognize. Signs of structure, of intention, of something that once stood tall and mattered. Meanwhile, in the money pit, the borehole labeled D17.5 struck deep, over 100 feet down, pulling up more wood with clear tool marks. Axes, likely. You could see the blade cuts in the grain. This wasn't recent. Probably pre-1795, before the original money pit was even found. That changes everything. It means someone built something before the search ever started. Something original. And if there's no record, then maybe it wasn't meant to be found. Maybe it was buried on purpose. Every drill hit sparked more tension. This wasn't just excavation, it was time travel. And it wasn't just treasure hunters anymore. Experts arrived. Archaeologists, coin specialists, metallurgists. Nobody laughed at the coin. They studied it under microscopes, scanned it, tested it. It was Roman, or close enough. A trader's coin. A payment fragment. A traveler's trace from a time when Canada wasn't even a whisper. The interpretive center buzzed with excitement. Even a new numismatist weighed in, confirming the alloy mix as consistent with ancient European minting. It wasn't just real, it was impossible. Or it should have been. If that coin was authentic, then history didn't need a footnote, it needed a rewrite. Someone either brought it here centuries too early, or someone had rewritten history already and left this coin behind as a clue. And that begs the real question. What if the true secret of Oak Island isn't treasure at all? What if the real secret is a cover-up, one that rewrote history itself? Like, comment, and subscribe for more mysterious discoveries.